I want to come to this concept called investment. You know, the share market goes up or down, or the price of this goes up or down, or, you know, the employment figures come out and they're up or down or whatever, and investors have reacted to what's going on. Investors have decided that BHP is not really worth what BHP thinks it's worth. And investors have decided that actually the risk appetite this week is a bit down because, you know, things are looking a bit risky and so on and so on. Investors. What a crock. What a crock. Investors, my arse. These people have got a time horizon of milliseconds. The problem is actually that no one's investing. Everyone's gambling and everyone's speculating on everything. And the problem is that actually the fact that no one's investing is plainly obvious for everyone to see. It's why everything is stagnating. It's why people aren't making big decisions for the future. Investment implies longer term. It implies having a vision beyond the next profit report. It's built into the meaning of the word. I think at the moment we are in a situation where everyone knows that things are not working the way that they should be working. And should be means reward for hard work, for effort, for investment. Reward for that. Not reward for gambling, for front running, for actually getting ahead of the regulators, for outwitting the nincompoops who run the central banks. You see, there's a big difference. And I think investment is the wrong term that gets used these days. It shouldn't be used because there isn't any such thing going on at the moment right now. Now, in an environment where there is no investment and there is no incentive to save and there is no putting down capital for the future, you know the future's going to be in trouble. The incentives are all wrong. There's no incentive to solve problems. There's no incentive to be smart anymore. Never mind the Prime Minister and his rubbish about the innovation nation and all the rest of it. How can you be an innovation nation when someone who wants to start up a business and do some really good work gets taxed up to their eyeballs, and someone who wants to lie on the beach and have 4 investment properties gets treated like some sort of a genius? Low interest rates, negative interest rates, the whole message is all about just keeping the goddamn thing going. I think the whole new generation will come to the conclusion that there is no point in planning for the future. But if you have this total short-termism and this 100% focus on anything but investment, and you have this 100% reward to everyone who gambles and front runs, like what I was saying earlier about all the traders and the bond traders all knowing that the central banks are going to come and buy whatever shit they've got on their books, so they just go out there and gamble with all this money, knowing that they're going to have full payment for it. They're not investing that money. They're not creating businesses with that money. They are getting paid to basically flip bonds. Sell them to one guy, buy them back, sell them back, buy them back, sell them back, buy them back, flip a house, flip another house, flip a business. Any jobs created? No. Any kind of plan for the future created? No. What's born out of all of that? Crap. Parasitic behavior. All the guys who know all the connections and who can do all the front running and all the flipping and all the nonsense, they get handsomely rewarded. All the people who are working very hard, well, they get shafted.
So can you explain how other countries come to Australia with free printed money?
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? It's remarkable. You know, we live in a world of fiat currency, which means all these countries can just print their own money out of nothing. Literally, the stroke of a keyboard, bang, you can mint out of nowhere $1 billion. The central bank mints $1 billion. It disperses that $1 billion to the various parasite banks around the place. The parasite banks take all this newly minted money and they lend it to all their wealthy clients. Their wealthy clients head off to Australia and buy the place. Think about it. You've got a farmer who has spent his entire life building up a farm, working very hard, tilling the land, doing what he needs to do, looking after everything. We're talking a lifetime of work. Meanwhile, over the Pacific over there, there's some clown in a central bank who's decided to mint $1 billion out of nowhere to stimulate the economy. And this $1 billion goes through the banking system over there and ends up coming and buying this farm. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to actually allow some clown over there who's got his own printing press in the basement? I mean, that's what we're talking about. He's got his own printing press. He's pressing the print button. He's come up with 44 suitcases of paper, and he's come cruising across on the next boat, and he said, you know what, guess what? I'd like to buy the Opera House. Here's my suitcases of paper. And Australians over here think, geez, thanks. I mean, you know what? Your average person who's had a frontal lobotomy would be smarter than that.
I want you to describe how you think our politicians...
Oh, the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem. Okay. So, we have disclosure laws. You know, I was having a look at some guys in the Grand Prix. Okay, and I saw a driver hop out of his Grand Prix car. Now, the Grand Prix car, you can't even see the car. It's like logos. You know, Esso and Sasol and Lucky Strike, and you know, everyone who's sponsoring this driver has got logos all over the car. The driver hops out of the car, you know, there's Red Bull on the bloody helmet and the eye, you know, on the eye things. I mean, this driver, you can see who this driver's 5 or 6 sponsors are, you know? You know that this particular driver, when he's finished his race, right? You know this guy's going to be up on the podium with a Red Bull. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to be up on the podium saying this Red Bull stuff is shite. I mean, he's not going to do that. And you know he's not going to do that because he's sponsored by Red Bull. It's bloody obvious that he's sponsored by Red Bull, right? So here we come to our politicians, right? Why don't our politicians have to walk around with badges on? I reckon if each politician had to publicise who their top 10 donors were by virtue of a badge on their suit. None of this Australian flag shit and bloody Anzac this and Cancer Day little ribbons. They can bloody well put great big badges on there saying, I'm sponsored by Philip Morris. I'm sponsored by, you know, the nuclear lobby or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you would know when the politicians are standing there making their speeches, when the politician who is sponsored by Philip Morris is standing there with a bloody straight face telling you that there's nothing wrong with smoking cigarettes, your eyeball can focus on that badge over there and go, I think this guy might be bought and paid for. And I think that would solve a lot of problems. Of course, it's not going to happen. I mean, the guys are bought and paid for. It'd be nice to have that kind of transparency because this is a really big problem. They're all bought and paid for. You know, I mean, to see someone with the intelligence of Malcolm Turnbull basically get into power and undergo a frontal lobotomy is something to behold. So, all I'm saying is I'd actually like to see some more honesty in all of this. Transparency. I don't mind if a politician is all for fracking. I don't mind if the politician is completely denies global warming. The guy's entitled to his or her opinion. But if a guy who totally and utterly is all for fracking has got a great big badge here saying, you know, 99% of my donations came from the fracking industry, you know, I mean, you might join the dots, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.